Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good tidings.
Good afternoon.
Good golly, Miss Molly.
Good day.
Good as new.
Good night.
Good grief.
Good point.
Good gracious.
Goodness, I'm just so amazed.
Loch Ness. Look
Are
at me.
you
I'm all
cheating? Have
cocky
you
now.
Have
I
you
am
got a
cheating.
huge list?
While we were chatting, I wrote some down. Come on, I've done this twice. This is like the second time I've done this.
I've been thoroughly. Well, anyway, that
Yes.
was the Loch Ness game. It's not a game, and it's not about Loch Ness.
And it's about me cheating and beating Nick.
Yes, but this is the Benji and Nick show. Very sadly, Benji can't be with us today.
No.
Is this our last Patreon?
It is our last Patreon podcast. It's not our last podcast, but it's our last early release Patreon podcast, which is very sad. Yes,
it is sad. It is sad.
Yes.
It's the partial end of an era and then the eventual end of an era. And just in case you didn't know, and you're listening to this randomly, the Benji and Nick show is all about vintage television, and we recommend to each other things to watch. And so between the podcasts, we watch them, then we talk about them the next week. Sometimes we do a commentary, but this week we're talking about the movie, The Andromeda Strain.
Yes.
Based on a Michael Crichton book, I think. It's certainly written by Michael Crichton. But we'll be talking about that after we have done the emails sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. Did I say that I'm Nick and she's Shelley? I'm not sure.
Well, I'm not Nick and I'm not Benji. So
you must be Shelley.
I'm Shelley.
All right, then. Well, as I say, these emails come to, we're all impressed by that, by the way, Shelley.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The emails, as I said, come to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. This one is from Arlo Who and was sent on the 22nd of July in the year 1239.
Oh,
very medieval.
Good year for lamb chops.
What was it really?
Yes, it was.
Oh. He says, Arlo says, hello all. After listening to your podcast about Under the Mountain, I thought I should let you guys know about a very handy resource stroke somewhat streaming service that has a whole bunch of New Zealand television and film on it. It's called NZ On Screen. I was slightly distracted by a bird I thought was flying into my shed then. That's weird. You see something perch on my head if you're watching the video on Patreon. It's www.nzonscreen.com. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of full seasons of shows on there, probably for rights and distribution reasons. But there are a lot of excerpts and full episodes, including a full version of Under the Mountain episode 4 in a much higher quality than on YouTube. So I had a look at that. It was, yeah. There's also a lot of behind the scenes information, which is something that Shelley might be interested in.
Yes.
But here in New Zealand, that's not all we got to offer. We've got another similar show to Under the Mountain called Children of the Dog Star. I watched a bit of it. It is similar. It's got some very similar graphics. It was written by the same guy who adapted Under the Mountain for TV. We were, by the way, very impressed with Under the Mountain, weren't we?
Yes, we were. I loved it.
The series follows holidaying teen Gretchen, Sarah Dunn, trying to unravel the mystery of a weather vane, a daisy rod, which seems to have otherworldly powers, and curious objects found in a tapu swamp. It was quite good from memory. The full season is available on YouTube. There you go. But there is a slightly higher quality version of episode 2 on NZ On Screen. There are links to all these things. I wish I could just throw them at you through the audio ether so that you could push them. But I mean, have a look on the internet,
I was wondering if you were going to read out the actual
HTTPS
PL83G 505
://www. Those were actually part of it.
Yes.
There is also the terrible but hilarious 1989 kids TV series Space Knights, which follows the story of King Arthur but in space and features life-sized puppets even. I don't know what a puffet is. Could this be related to the Doctor Who story Battlefield, which came out in the same year? What the ... That's just me saying that. He didn't say that. I hope not. It has all the icon characters from the Arthurian tales, but with some kind of space/sci-fi word added to their names, such as Arthur Asteroid. who has an extremely thick New Zealand accent.
Eggs.
Eggs, posh and chops. Mordred Darkvoid, who has a Russian accent, but somehow South African accent. Unfortunately, the excerpt from episode 1 on NZ on screen is unavailable outside NZ, New Zealand, that is. But there is some good info about the series on their website. I'm not reading out that long address either. But there are a few episodes available on YouTube. Both of these shows, I think, would make a good watch for the podcast. One more thing. In relation to your podcast about PSFs, or public service films, I'm under attack by acronyms today in every aspect of my life, but I won't bore you with that. I was wondering if you guys knew about Richard Massingham. No, I didn't. Who made a lot of them back in the 40s and 50s. While quite old-fashioned, some of them are still quite funny. Available on YouTube. Thanks, Arlo. P.S. Sorry I went on for so long. There are a lot more words than I realized. But one thing I wanted to say was that I've been listening to this podcast for almost 2 years. And while I don't always end up watching the shows that you talk about or remember them, as a lot of the shows you talk about were before my time, I still keep coming back to listen to the podcast. This is because of the wonderful chemistry and dry, witty humor that you all have. You guys make the podcast so entertaining to listen to and so much fun. Keep up the good work.
Aw.
It feels almost
Thanks,
churlish to
Arlo.
stop doing it after an email like that, doesn't it?
Well, I've got the next email, and it
Mhm.
is from Terry Boniface. Am I saying that correctly?
I don't know. It could be Boniface. Who knows? I think.
Sorry, Terry. I'm horrible with that. This was sent to us on July 20th in the future, 2038. So, with the news of the forthcoming demise of the Benji and Nick show, I posted some comments on Twitter, which I thought I'd collate in email form in the vain hope that they may get read out. Shallow, attention-seeking, I know. But anyway, here goes, with a bit of extra embellishment.
Oh.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for. But fear not, an audio production company called Small Starts, or similar, will start issuing monthly dramatized versions of the Benji and Nick show. Then, after 7 years, Shelley Dean, that's me, will produce an American movie version, possibly with the team from Jumanji as the principal cast. You can work out who you want each of you to be between yourselves. Small Starts will go from strength to strength with such a groundswell of love for the Benji and Nick show that 9 years after the movie, a brand new version of the show will air, possibly moving from Sundays to primetime Saturday evenings.
Oh.
With annual Christmas Day specials in place of the interminable repeats of Mrs. Brown's Boys.
That was a good run. Interminable.
Interminable.
It's one of those words.
Yes, it is. Further iterations will follow over the subsequent years. I've got my thesaurus next to me. Even Captain Jamie Anderson will return for occasional guest appearances, although nothing controversial, until ultimately Nick Briggs will be played by Nicola Walker and Benji by Jacob Dudman. I bet Jacob could do Benji's voice perfectly.
I'm sure.
I bet Jacob could do my voice perfectly.
Yeah. Nicola sounds just like me anyway.
There you go. Although, could this be a parallel dimension version of events where they all have scars, are clean shaven, the horror, and wear eye patches? And in a terrible act of desperation, we have to try and stop this tragedy from occurring?
Definitely.
Maybe not, but at least we can look forward to collecting the entire series on VHS and then again on DVD before everything is repackaged as Blu-ray collections to buy it all again. And B&M's shelves are filled with plastic miniatures of the Fab Four, Nick, Benji, Shelley, and Jamie.
Hey.
For all the fun and facts and opinion you have given us over the last few years, thank you. And Loch Ness.
Oh.
From Terry.
That hits me straight in the heart.
I know.
Thank you, Terry. Laura Walensky, one of our, she's my personal favorite of all our listeners, obviously. I don't know why I said that. This was sent on the 18th of July in the year 2056, only slightly into the future. Well done, Laura. her time machine's got quite a
Yes.
limited drive capacity. A podcast going away is the subject. I have to say first, though, I understand the reasons and they're rational, but it still pains me to see the podcast go. I will miss you all immensely. Not that I won't hear you on the Big Finish podcast, but there won't be dinner, lunch discussions, Patreon fun, and videos. Love the videos. To actually see you all in action makes a difference. However, I'm not sure I should have gone out and cancelled my Patreon membership. I want to see the videos, or Vodios as you mistyped, and listen in through to the end. And I suspect that won't be possible unless I'm a Patreon member. To catch up on all the after party videos and fun too. Hopefully you can enlighten us on how we can get the remaining videos through to the end. I have immensely enjoyed the Benji and Nick podcast and will miss it. It's good that you're too busy to do it anymore, but very sad as well. Sigh. It just reminds me how fleeting things can be. Laura Valensky, Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
What can she do about getting videos?
We have not discussed that. So we will probably have to have a conversation about what we're going to do with all of that stuff once the Patreon comes to a close, which is at the end of next. We're ending at the end of July. So yes, that's coming up very soon.
Let's not get dates confused.
I know. I don't even know what day it is today. So, but that I guess we will come up with a decision on what we're going to do. And then we will let you know how we're going to do that.
I mean, I've got a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Could maybe put it out. Anyway, right. Shall we Andromeda strain it?
Andromeda strain it. Let's strain the Andromeda. The Andromeda Strain is a 1971 American sci-fi thriller produced and directed by Robert Wise, based on Michael Crichton's 1969 novel of the same name. And I did not read the book this week, by the way. Those of you who listened to last week, I read Jurassic Park when we decided we were going to watch Jurassic Park, but I didn't have time to read this book. But I do want to read it, though. Anyhow, it's about a U.S. research satellite carrying a deadly extraterrestrial microscopic organism. It crashes into a small town in America, Piedmont, causing almost all of the residents to die. A group of top scientists are quickly assembled to retrieve the satellite and to identify and contain the lethal stowaway. Okay,
dot.
Yes, so that's what it's about. What did you think of it? I know that it was your idea that we watch this, so...
Well, it's one of my favorite movies, and it's grown on me over the years. I think when I first saw it, and I'm guessing that you might reflect some of these views. When I first saw it, I found it very dry and seemed to go on for a long time. But I think
just a little bit.
But now I know it thoroughly. There's just so many good things about it. I mean, one of the things that really hits you, I mean, it is very dated. The 1970s, 60s, 70s attitudes are there. Interesting, though, that they didn't have to have a glamorous woman in it. I liked that.
Well, I will add that in the book, all four of those main characters were men.
So
Robert Wise said one of these needs to be a woman.
Good man.
Which I very much appreciated.
Yeah. I expect they'd all be women now, of course, if they made a film of it now.
I would doubt that.
And the Andromeda strain itself would be a very nasty man. But I remember when it was first shown on British television, and I remember seeing the sort of early evening trailers for it. And then I started to watch the film, and I got to the bit where they cut the wrist, and the blood,
dry blood,
and I couldn't watch anymore because I'd never seen anything like that in my life, because it looked like a real wrist, and then they just sliced it open, and I don't know what I nearly did, but I was...
Well, in the anticipation that when they start slicing the wrist, you expect there to be liquid blood
it's just
spurting
horrible.
out, and then all of a sudden it's just these sand, it looks like sand crystals just pouring out of instead of the liquid blood. So...
But yes, it's just one of those ones that has grown on me over the years, and I love the weird electronic music. And it's a shame Benji isn't here for us to bore Shelley's senseless with the two of us going on about that. And it just has a weird procedural, very flat feeling about it.
There's not. I been trying to pay more attention to music while I watch these things because it's not something I mean, you guys, obviously, it's a huge part of your careers.
Yeah.
So I always find, unless something stands out, I don't pay. It's just there. It's a mood setting thing. Right. So I did notice that in this, there wasn't a lot of background music, which today, most movies and shows you watch, it's like there's a constant underlying thing happening. But speaking of the music, in the very beginning of the movie is the credits, which is so mind-boggling to me because we're so used to the credits being at the end of things now. That music that was playing in the beginning gave me anxiety. It was oh my gosh, I was just like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna have to step away from this for a minute and go have some meditation because it was really
You sound like you're doing jazz.
I am. It's all jazz to me.
It's unfriendly, isn't it?
Yes, very.
It doesn't invite you in at all. It makes you want to run away and hide somewhere.
And it's long.
Yeah.
It's very, very long. And so it's like that's how you're starting the movie. And you're just like, okay.
Well, that's how movies always started with long credit sequences.
Yeah.
But now, they sometimes movies these days don't even have the title come up. You
have to guess what you're watching.
Yeah, you have to have made sure that you looked on your ticket when you came into the movie theater. Yeah,
I've actually had that happen. Like, am I in the right movie? Like, what movie is this?
There is a sort of modern tendency. The number of times I ask my wife or my son what it is they're watching on whatever streaming service, and they more often than not say, "Oh, I don't know." So what do you mean you don't know? Well, it's about, they'll tell you what it's about because they've watched something. I say, well, what's it called? Oh, I've no idea.
Yeah.
I thought, how can you watch something and not know the title of it? Quite easily is the answer.
Yes, apparently. Yeah.
It somehow, in a very purist way, appalls me. Tell me more about what you think about this movie.
Well, so you hit the nail on the head about my first experience watching this. It was very draggy. It was a very, very long 2 hours and 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. It definitely could have been done in an hour and a half. 100%. There were a lot of scenes that was just like, why are we taking so long with this? It's just, it was very, but I loved about it, I loved the movie. Absolutely loved it. I thought that the way it was presented was just, I will go back to what I was saying about Michael Crichton when we were talking about Jurassic Park, was his ability to explain things that are super duper scientific, super duper medical, but explain it in a way that you're not going, huh? It was very simplified, but not like they talked their way through what was happening, and it made me go, okay, I know what they're doing. I understand why when they were doing the tests when they got into Wildfire and they got down into the 5th level and they started doing all their tests. I understood what they were doing with trying to figure out the growth, like when Leavitt, the woman scientist, she was doing the experiment where they were putting the organism with different things, and then they were measuring whether or not it grew in that environment.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have known because I'm not a scientist. I don't know how they do these experiments and stuff, but it made me go, oh, that's cool how they're testing it in different places and stuff. So I really appreciated that writing. Yeah.
A lot of long process stuff going on here. The other thing, it occurred to me listening to you then, a lot of the stuff that seems obvious to us now, like networking of computers and computers controlling, that was all total science fiction then. That was all made up stuff. It was, it was Michael Crichton projecting into what we could maybe do in the future. So that would have all in and of itself been fascinating and engaging, whereas we're thinking, we'll get that. Yeah, why do we need to have so much about this? But because they were going, and it's incredible that this has been done by a computer. Yeah. And that would have been enough for the audience at the time to be amazed by that. We're going, computer, fine. I've got 3, It's sort of, you know what I mean? So that was fascinating. What did we think of the treatment of animals?
I did not like it. I did not. I was
I mean,
saying,
I
but
presume those animals weren't being actually killed.
no, the monkey. Apparently, the monkey scene was a controversy when this movie came out, and I did find that what they did was okay. So if you haven't seen it, the scene is they're testing live animals to see the reaction to exposure to the organism.
To see if it's still there. Or
If
what,
it is, if it's airbound, if it's, they were just testing to see. And so they did a rat first, which was very upsetting, and I had to turn away. And then they pulled out a monkey, and monkeys for me are just too damn close. It's just, it's like a rat. I don't know. There's like this line in my brain. But so the monkey thing, I couldn't even watch it, to be quite honest. I just was like, la, 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 covering up the screen.
Because they die. They expose them to the air and they die, don't they?
So the way they did it was they removed all of the oxygen, and they put in, is it carbon monoxide? Hold on. And they had okay, here it is.
It does say that the American Humane Society.
A few additional details about the controversial death scene of the monkey in the laboratory. One, it was approved by the ASPCA, which is the animal rights activism here in America, who was present during the filming of the scene. Two, while the monkey was filmed suffocating on CO2, assistant director James Fargo was standing just off camera wearing scuba gear and holding a second oxygen source. Three, the monkey was revived just seconds after going unconscious, a little too quickly as it turns out. Watching the scene closely, the viewer can clearly see a shadow moving towards the monkey just as it goes limp.
Oh, wow.
And since there was only one take, it couldn't be edited out.
Yeah.
So that, I know.
And they ran it at a high speed as well, didn't they? So it happened very quickly. It
probably.
The way that, of course, you didn't watch it, did you? But the way they moved seemed like strangely juddering. And I think that they ran it at very high speed.
Yeah, to make it more.
So they did sort of partially suffocate the
they knocked it out.
I thought they maybe injected them with a sedative, but they
knocked him out. Yeah, but
but they survived. The animals survived.
The animals were okay. but you're right. In the beginning, there was a big thing during the credits rolling in the beginning that all the animals were okay, and that already, as soon as I saw that, I went, uh-oh.
yeah, got to see something.
I was fine with all the dead people laying around, the vultures digging on them. Which, by the way, why were the vultures alive?
Well. Indeed. I wondered
they didn't think about that, did they? I think that was a goof.
No, or maybe it only attacks complex life like human beings.
I would think of vultures. I mean, a rat. I think I would think a bird like a vulture would be more intelligent than a rat.
It's a good point. I mean, they gassed the vultures, didn't they?
Yeah, they dropped in that orange gas.
Or Agent Orange.
Yes. But the animal stuff was very upsetting to me. The dead kids stuff was very upsetting to me. The dead adults I'm perfectly fine with. I don't know where I have.
So you've got a rat monkey barrier and an age barrier.
Yes.
So like someone reaches puberty, it's all right for them to be murdered horribly, is what you're saying.
And ironically, when this
you're writing this down at home first.
Yes. Oh no, I watched lots of true crime. Ironically, when this movie came out, it was rated G.
Wow.
Which is all ages.
Yeah, U in the UK, that would be
unrated. So, and I was like, what? That must have been a lot looser back then because there was nudity. Which, by the way, do we have to zoom in on the naked dead lady on her boobs? Do we have to?
Oh, yeah, that was a little weird.
Did we have to zoom in on that? I didn't
want to see that guy's naked bottom as he walked through the decontamination thing as well.
Yeah. Or the reflections when they were sitting in the chairs getting decontaminated and there was all the mirrored walls around them.
Oh
yeah. There was lots of side views of things.
Side views of things.
Yes.
That's next week's podcast.
Yes. But yeah, so the animal stuff was tough to watch because I just couldn't watch it. But I understand why, they had to do it.
The style of that movie is the whole thing is quite. It's, as I say, it's difficult. It doesn't make it easy for you, any of it. There's lots of pausing. There's lots of people no one's particularly nice to anyone. There's no charm. There's no real humor. It's just deadly. I mean, these people are dealing with something that could mean the destruction of life on Earth. And I rather like the low-key resolution. Look away now, folks, if you don't want to, as it were. Where the Andromeda strain just develops into a form that doesn't kill people.
Yeah.
It evolves, and it is evolving all the time. That's quite, when they first see it growing, it does that
it changes color. Wah, wah,
that's
wah, wah.
really that's really fun stuff, actually.
Yeah. Well, they spent, I believe it was $250,000, which back then was a lot, on just the special effects, which was it's very primitive stuff. It's all the where is it? There was a thing about the when they were doing the computer view of what the wildfire, the secret Area 51 type of place that was like beneath the surface. It was 5 levels below. It was the movie was made before the era of CGI, forcing the filmmakers to rely totally on practical effects. For example, the rotating holographic display of the facility layout was created using a projector and a simple piece of cardboard that was raised as each level was added.
It looked really good, though, didn't it?
Right. But it's just, we're so spoiled now.
And you look at that and you think, and we're used to the idea of 3D graphics, and they had to go to so much trouble to create something. And people would have looked at that in those days and thought, wow, it's like in 3D. How did they do that? Whereas we just think, show me another 3D graphic. It's fine.
Yeah. And for us, it looks like, just basic, easy, nothing computer graphics. So, but it's a great movie. It does kind of leave you at the end kind of going, oh, but is it okay?
Exactly.
You know,
could it happen again?
I thought that was very interesting. And the fact that they decided that once it landed, the swarm of it, I guess is what they called it, was moving over the Pacific Ocean, and then they were going to seed the rain clouds so that the organism would then fall into the sea. And then since the sea is salt water, the acidity level or the alkaline level of it would kill off the micro. Why didn't they just douse it all with seawater instead of before it took off?
Yeah, because I think because there's that sinister agenda that they were actually looking for an organism like this, weren't they?
Yeah, that was the whole Scoop project, which was what the satellite was. And that's how they it was a satellite that went up into space, and it had this thing on it called a scoop, which opened up and then scooped out of the space air. I know it's not air, but
space air,
the space. And then it brought it back to Earth. So they were actually actively, the government was searching for something. And weren't prepared for what they got. What a surprise! The
old sci-fi story there. Yeah,
what a surprise!
So what are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it a 4 because I thought it was a little long, but I loved the story. I loved the pacing that was there. But I despised the animal stuff and the kids stuff. But that's just my own taste. But as a movie, for what it is, and I just love Michael Crichton and his ability to dumb things down enough to not make you feel like you're dumb.
No, that's right. You feel quite clever, actually, don't you?
Yes. You're like, I totally understand this. I'm going to go be a scientist now.
Yes. I completely agree with your analysis, really. Every level. So, I mean, I give it a big fat 4. I do love it. I've got it on DVD, but I went and bought it on Apple TV as well. So I've got it on my computer whenever I want to watch it. It's the kind of film that I could just watch sections of and just admire it. I think it's interesting. It's directed by Robert Wise. I stupidly said last time it was directed by Michael Crichton because I'm sure he directed Westworld. I think I'm right about that. Have a check.
Let's find out.
But Robert Wise also did Star Trek: The Motion Picture and The Sound of Music. I love Robert Wise's career. two completely different films.
He
But-
also did The Haunting, which
yeah,
was one of my absolute favorites. I love that movie.
But there are certain aspects of the design of this movie that remind me of Star Trek, the motion picture as well. And I wonder whether he had an influence on it. I don't think it was the same designer.
You are correct. Michael Crichton directed Westworld, the movie.
Yeah, I thought as much.
Yes.
Which is one hell of a movie, actually.
I saw it so long ago that it didn't register in my brain. I saw it when I was a kid. It's a
good action movie. Yul Brynner is really great in it as this non-speaking cowboy.
Yeah, I didn't like the TV series.
I watched the first series of it and enjoyed it, but by the end of the first series, I was done.
Yeah, that's why I say I didn't like it, because by the time, the end of the first series rolled around, I was like, why did I just waste it all? I wasted so much time watching that because it just...
You're absolutely right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It does. By the end of it, you do feel you've wasted your time, even though the journey was quite enjoyable and intriguing.
And I wanted to keep going. That's why I got upset, because it was like I thought they could do so much and it could go so far, and then it just kind of went off the rails in a weird way, and I went, nah, never mind.
That's a shame when that happens.
Yeah.
I was going to say very boringly and very Anaraki that some of the sound effects in this film, Andromeda Strain, was similar to door sound effects in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And I just wonder how much of Robert Wise's style, you know what I mean? You just thought, I need that, because I think there was that big circular glass door that had two sides to it that there's a bit like that on the set of the Enterprise in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Huh.
Who knew circular doors in science fiction? It's never been heard of, has it? Yeah. Anyway, good solid 4 exclamation marks.
They did do a remake of it. They did a American TV miniseries that an old friend of mine, Benjamin Bratt, starred in. And when I looked at it, I was like, I can't believe I've never seen this, because I know somebody in it. It was in 2000 and I want to say 8. Hold on. I'm pretty sure it was.
Wow. A miniseries.
That's not it. Yep, 2008. Wow, God, my brain is good today.
How'd you get hold of that?
Ricky Schroeder's in it.
Who's Ricky Schroeder?
Any American listening will know who he is. He was in a TV show in the 80s called Silver Spoons. So he was a child actor, and he's grown up to be quite a... Anyhow,
I see.
I won't get political.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was a mini series. I'll have to see if I can find it.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I like I said, I just saw that they remade it, but I didn't see any.
I'm not surprised, because
reviews on it.
It's the kind of thing that I would have liked to have remade.
Mm-hmm.
All right then. Now, next time round, it may just be, I don't know, because of course, because we work 1 week ahead, we can, and we're not going to be working one week ahead.
This is our last week ahead. We can
probably skip one. Yeah. So I was going to say it, because I'll be on holiday next week, but it may be. So I was going to say it would be just you and Benji, but it probably won't be. Actually,
it'll just be me. See, the Benji and Nick show is going to morph into the Shelley Dean show, where I don't even know. I have no idea what I would do.
Just sit there and go, well,
hey,
I watched some TV. And so anyway, so what are we going to give ourselves to talk about next time?
Well, I created a list of things that, because it's always a problem of access, what I can access and what you guys can access. So these are things that I know I can access. I thought I would throw out an American show and see how you feel about it. Okay. I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh, God, no. I can't watch that. Yeah, okay. Moving on.
I had
my review.
I had The Haunting on the list.
Oh, right. The movie, The
Haunting. I had something that people have been recommending for us to do a commentary on for the Patreon comment. We did a monthly commentary. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, the movie.
Oh, right. It's like the first pilot episode.
Yeah.
We could do that as well. I'm quite keen on doing that.
So I've got that, or a good old Last Starfighter, which was from 1984. That was a good one. Or we could go out of the sci-fi world and do a Play Misty for Me.
Oh,
which
wow.
is
That's
an
yes.
amazing movie that a dear, dear friend of mine who just passed away starred in, Jessica Walters.
Wow.
It's a Clint Eastwood movie. He
I know it. Yeah.
starred
Oh,
and
sorry, but
directed
you're
in
saying
it.
that for the listeners, aren't you?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Well, I'm thinking that Buck
So,
Rogers and what was the what was
Buck
the not?
Rogers in the 25th
Yeah,
century.
what was the one before that?
I said The Haunting and The Last Starfighter.
The Haunting or Buck Rogers? Should we do Buck Rogers because that's real proper cult rubbish?
And people have been
television.
asking for that, so that's been on my list every time we've tried to decide what we were going to do a commentary on. And so we can do a show on that.
That's great.
Buck Rogers in the 25th century from 1979.
Lovely. Well, so don't forget to send your emails into podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. And we will, I nearly said Benji. Shelley, would you like to say your goodbyes?
I would like to say goodbye. Am I going to do the...
No, we're going to.
Okay, great. So goodbye. Sorry, everyone. Nick and I had a conversation before this, and then So thank you so much for listening. And if you want to get your hands on some Benji and Nick show merchandise, that is going to still be available at Nick's website. It's nicholasbriggs.com/shop. SHOP. Nice. So if you want to get some of that stuff, I was reading messages people left us when we did our announcement about the show ending, and somebody was saying, "Ooh, check eBay, all the Benji and Nick show merchandise is going to be hot commodity now." So go and get it quick.
And thank you. We should say thank you for all the lovely messages. Really
so sweet.
Said. Yeah.
A bunch of them made me cry.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. It's lovely to know that people have been so entertained by what we've been doing. The thing that Shelley and I were vaguely, secretively alluding to there is that we will play out the end of this podcast with a special little feature featuring all the names of our wonderful patrons.
Yes.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Floor manager, Hannah Lynch. Elephant wrangler, Chris David. Fighter ranger, Carl Scott. Beach sweeper, Carl Bate. Laura Walensky, vacuum adjuster. Obverse triangle, Charles Coffin. Scenic trenches, Nick Tedstone by arrangement. Your favourite, Nathan Martin. Lovelies, Jay Dermott, Kevin Lindsay, Michael Young, Tom Baker, James Roadhaver, The Animal, David Tremont, Pass, Fatima G. Isa, No Score Drawn, Neil Allen, Terry's Mate, Hugh McGilroy, Arthur Farnsbarnes, 42nd Seagoon, 45th Seagoon. Conspirators, Nick Ferraza, 2 Zs, Justin Chisnell, The Chisel, Brett Little, Writ Large, Dylan Reese, Under Milkwood, Steve Craddock, Bedfordshire, James Sutherland, Absent Without Leave, Daniel Hall, Scattered Showers. Following on, Marine Dalek, The Feds, Jeremy Renner, Bastion Falls, Fiona James, Swept, Levington, Susan Christian, Barefeet, Mark Snedden, The Appleman, Rob Hughes, BBC News, Tony M. Parker, Neil Sedaka, Duncan Wilson, Mr. Hedges, Alex Mars, Big Al, Judy, Who Are These? Simon Barker, Neil Sedaka, again, Debbie Caramulla, Attack Stand, Adam Graham, Terry Nation, Aniran Hunt, Take a Punt, John Ryan, Tea and Toast, David James, Albert Sanitizer, Jamie Anderson, Contractual Obligator, thank you and goodbye.